afternoon, Mr. Fatuse. Could you please explain the significance of risk maturity within the risk management framework?
Thank you for the question side of the participants. I think it's crucial importance, as I've mentioned, within the framework of risk management early on the teaching. And I thank you for the question. Before we can understand the risk management maturity level or assessment, I think we said risk management is applicable for both private sector entities as well as public sector entities. In an organization, the risk management maturity level can range from the basic compliance to the most mature and risk intelligent entity, which I explained earlier on. The entity's risk management maturity level should not be an obstacle for it to implement risk management. I think several times you can never, it's like if you're born as a child, a baby, you start from infancy level, you progress. Even in our careers, we start at an infant level and we progress. Means what? The maturity level should not be used as an obstacle for any given organization to implement risk management within their organization regard. Thus, irrespective of its level of maturity, the entity can minimally apply a basic set of risk management principles and practices enable the identification, the risk assessment and treatment reporting of key risks affecting the achievement of the organizational strategies as well as objectives, and to enable the collection or aggregation of risk and risk management performance information across that particular entity in regard. I think it's because of importance. Why it's so important is what I'm trying to say. Because when we look at your risk maturity level, we look at the various factors regard your resources, the capacity of the organization, the size of it in regard. So it must not be as an excuse to say if we do not have maturity, a high maturity level, we cannot implement risk management. It's a progressive nature into growing into maturity regard. So I think it's quite important to understand that risk maturity is a benchmark tool which measures to what extent an organization has implemented enterprise-wide risk management or institutional-wide risk management within the given organizations in accordance to best practices, which I have mentioned earlier on. Because your risk management framework will speak about the best practice either through the standards, which is either COSO 2017 and ISO 21 standards, or according to the Institute of Risk Management, or be it in every given country according to the treasury framework of that particular government country in the guard. Sometimes see even the codes, even in Africa there's a King 4 code in the guard. So it means what? It's a progressive nature. That's why we said risk management maturity. So you first have to discover yourself, where are you and what is the target you set. That's why we said earlier on there must be an alignment between risk management and performance management. Normally organizations who are performance orientated, who want to achieve to high altitude, they will put a set target progressively for the next 5 years or 10 years to say if the level of maturity is from a scale of 1 to 5, they will first assess at what level are they according to the current resources they have, and they'll progressively set targets, performance targets to grow into a level of maturity. Can either be a 10-year or 5-year, depending upon the strategic plan of the risk management department within that given organization. Because I think the risk management maturity, it helps to establish the current risk maturity of organization's enterprise risk management framework, so as to determine the desired state of the ERM framework that will be support organization strategies and ultimately effective improvements on the risk management gaps identified in the regard. As I said, it's crucially important to understand you cannot develop the risk management framework or establish maturity level without aligning it risk management, the performance management cycle, as well as strategic planning cycle as well. Regard. I think it's crucially important to understand for an institution to achieve a desired risk maturity level, say based upon your performance level. They said you might find yourself you're in a level 1 or you're in a level 2, level 3, you might have a desired level of maturity that you want to achieve regarding to risk management. So it means, if so, it requires, any institution requires, among others, to adequate risk management capacity in regard. So that plays a very crucial role. Do you have the right capacity, able to achieve a high level, your desired level of risk management maturity level in regard? The majority of the entities, whether private in the private sector or public sector, especially within the public sector, and SMEs do not have the adequate risk management capacity. Hence, they struggle to achieve the desired risk maturity level. Is either the risk management department is not existent or is outsourced, or it is under resourced, or you have resources but it is not the right skills, competency level, able to take that particular organization to a high level of risk management maturity. So prior to any institution implementing the risk management framework, it should assess if it has the risk management capacity that will enable it to implement the risk management framework and consequently achieve its desired level of risk management maturity level. I think it's also important to consider all of these factors. Sometimes people stagnate, and I've been consulting in public sector for a long time. I've left some of the provincial department, treasury, municipality in some province in South Africa, and I left it. I was absent in the public sector, local government, for about 10 years. When I came back after 10 years, they were still speaking about the desired outcome of a level 3. Means what? It's just moderate. They've never grown beyond that. When I left it, for me, I set me a target when I was one of the chief risk officers of some of the local government back then. I've over the target for all of the municipalities in that province. It was on a level 3 from a scale 1 to 5, and some of people were in the infant stage. But for myself, when I left it, I was at the 4, and I was amazed after 10 years coming back. They still speaking about the set target, which is the baseline of a level 3 in the gap. Means what? There was no moving towards the gap, and one of the reasons was the capacity. Risk management, especially in government, local government, is normally taking the role from internal auditors, or sometimes they don't have the right, the salary scale is not appropriately to attract the competent chief risk officers in the guard, or the capacity, the risk management unit is not well capacitated, because the scope of risk management have increased over the years. So the focus of risk management is no longer only upon risk management. You do business continuity, you do fraud, you do ethics, you do compliance. The scope have increased, and it needs a different capacity, competency level, capability of a chief risk officer, whereas it is placed on a lower level, attracting people on a lower level. I think all of those stuff does play an impact to ensure that the maturity level will increase to a higher level, desired level in the gap. So there's sometimes this juncture between those lawmakers or treasury compare with the reality on the ground, or the perception. That's why I spoke about the risk culture, regard the risk awareness within amongst decision makers, be the board, be the board of directors, be the councillors who make decisions regarding resources. If they see risk management department as insignificant, they will not put the limited resources towards fulfilling that objective within the community organization regard. So I think the risk culture also does plays a role in ensuring that a given organization income, the risk maturity level is at the high level in the regard. I think the differences in private sector and public sector entities, the size and capacity may impact on the level of risk maturity. However, it is crucial important to understand, it is not typical that a big private or public sector entity will be at the high maturity level and vice versa. I said you have to consider all of these factors that contribute to progressively grow in a maturity level of risk management. Various factors such as the risk culture, combined risk assurance, internal controls may impact on the level of risk maturity within any given organization. So I hope I've answered the question. We say when we look at the significance of risk management maturity, we have to consider all of these factors regard, and also the status is saying how is risk aligned to strategic planning and performance management within that given organization, be it private sector or public sector. But we have to consider the risk culture, the internal control environment to a level. Thank you. Hope it makes sense. Thank you. Bye-bye.